We'll do like a 15-minute meditation, go into talk and then discussion. You know the drill. Go ahead and find a posture that feels steady and at ease. We've got extra cushions and chairs, so take what you need. You might sit upright with feet on the floor, cross-legged, kneeling, whatever's comfortable. Allowing the spine to lengthen without stiffness, shoulders soften, hands resting somewhere natural. And if it feels supportive, you can close your eyes or lower your gaze on the floor in front of you. Just taking a moment to arrive here just as you are. There's no other place to be, nothing to fix, nothing to solve. Just sitting here, breathing together. Let this be simple. The meditation will begin and end at the sound of the bell. Beginning with a few deeper breaths. Collectively inhale slowly through the nose, feeling the lungs expand, and exhale gently through the mouth, allowing any obvious tension to release. Again, breathing in fully and breathing out, softening. One more time together, steady breath in and a long breath out. Now allow the breath to return to its natural rhythm. We'll do a brief body scan, bringing the attention to the top of the head. Notice any sensations here. Maybe there's some warmth or coolness, pressure. No need to change anything, just simply noticing as we move slowly our attention down to the forehead and our eyes. Are the muscles tight or relaxed here? Maybe let your brow soften if you notice you've been holding it. Notice the cheeks and the jaw, perhaps unclenching the teeth or softening the tongue. Letting the awareness move to the neck and shoulders. Feeling the weight of your body here. Noticing any holding. And allowing gravity to assist in the softening. Moving down through the arms, upper arms, elbow, forearm, hand. Feeling any contact here, temperature, maybe subtle sensations in the fingers. Bringing your attention to the chest and upper back. Noticing the movement of breath here as the ribs expand and release. Noticing as the breath fills the belly, letting it be soft and natural. No controlling, just feeling. Moving through the hips and pelvis. Noticing the contact that we have with the cushion or chair. Down our thighs, knees, calves, and into the feet. Feeling the soles of the feet either touching the floor or resting under you. The whole body sitting here. Sensations arising and passing. And as we sit, begin to notice that experience is layered. The experience of sitting here on the cushion. There's a physical sensation of the body. Perhaps it feels pleasant to be sitting here, or unpleasant, or neutral. The mind may quietly be naming what is happening. There are sounds around us, the temperature of the room, perhaps the busyness of your mind. There may also be subtle tightening or aversion, a pulling away or a leaning in. And for the practice today, rather than thinking about this experience, we're simply going to observe the experience. We're just noticing how these elements unfold on their own. No need to dissect it analytically. Just gently seeing that what we call me is actually a flow of changing events, sensations, tones, reactions, labels. And let this be curious. Let it be light. Try to see it as a gift that we have to give it ourselves to watch the experience as it assembles itself in real time. Practicing with what's arising and what's falling away. And the mind may try to do what the mind likes to do, maybe create a story out of that sensation, or follow down the path of whatever might be arising. But tonight we're just observing. So thank you, mind, for trying to plan it out, to figure it out. But right now we're just observing. Notice if the mind is naturally inclined to notice the pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Or maybe your mind is more inclined toward the labeling. Noise, hot, cold, pressure. Or perhaps your mind tends to go toward the reaction first. irritation, interest, perhaps an indifference. And see if you can try to expand that awareness to both the reaction, the noting, the tone, observing it as a whole. And as a way to sort of deepen the practice, see if you can observe this unfolding of experience without inserting a solid I into the middle of it. For example, just hearing, just sensing, just reacting, or just knowing. Instead of, I am anxious, perhaps there's a tightening in the chest, maybe an unpleasant tone, or a thought of the future. Can it be experienced as happening rather than as identity? Nothing needs to be pushed away. Nothing needs to be clung to. Sensations arise. Tones will shift. Reactions will come and go. Let the experience be impersonal in the gentlest way. It's not cold, not distant, just natural, like the weather moving through the sky. And if the mind gets tangled in story, that's okay. Simply notice that too. Thinking is happening. And gently return to observing how the experience of thinking unfolds. There's no right or wrong here, just learning to see more clearly. I'll invite you into a few minutes of silent practice, continuing to observe experience as it arises, allowing everything to come and go in its own time. The meditation will end at the sound of the bell. Thank you for your practice. As we come back to the space, as Andrew likes to say, a continuation of what we were exploring in our meditation can be brought into our time now. Get my jacket. Sorry. So tonight we'll be continuing on our series on the book Mindfulness, A Guide to Awakening by Joseph Goldstein. And we spent the last couple of weeks being introduced to mindfulness of Dhammas. So we did an intro, Andrew did the 5 hindrances last week, and now we'll be moving into the 5 aggregates, or what's called khandhas in Pali. And Goldstein reflects on how there are many instances in the discourses where people would hear these teachings and either become fully enlightened or, if not ripe for that final awakening, have the cloudless, stainless vision of the Dhamma arise in the mind, turning upright what had been overthrown, revealing what was hidden, showing the way to one who was lost, or holding up a lamp in the dark for those with eyes to see. When we bring the teachings on the 5 aggregates into the realm of direct experience, they lead us into a profound investigation of what it is we call life. I thought that was really beautiful. So we'll see if we all become fully enlightened beings by the end of tonight. You'll have to let me know how that works out for you. We're going to explore what is an aggregate. What does that even mean? What does the Buddha say about them? We'll talk about the 5 individual ones, and then sort of how they support us and our practice. So the word aggregate translates to the Pali word khanda, which means heap, bundle, or collection. It points to something composite, so not a single solid entity, but rather a gathering of parts that function together. Like when we think of a school, you just think of the word school. It's not a school alone. It's filled with lots of different roles and people and things that make it up to what we call a school. The same with a lot of things, right? Like a car. A car is made up of a lot of different parts that have to function together for it to work. Or like the pizza shop that we tend to go to a lot, filled with lots of beautiful things that all together make it a beautiful place to go each week. And so, most pointedly for tonight, a human. We, as a person, are made up of a lot of different parts. And when the Buddha spoke about the five aggregates, he was offering a way to examine what we call a person, not as a fixed identity, but as a dynamic collection of processes. And so in the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta, anatta meaning not self, lakkhana meaning characteristic. So in the sutta talking about characteristics of not self, the Buddha addresses the five aggregates directly and asks whether any of them can rightly be regarded as self. He points out that what is self should be fully controllable and not subject to change, because that's what we do, right, with self. I am this, I am not that, I will be this, I don't want to be that. Very I. Yet each aggregate that we'll cover is impermanent. It is conditioned, and it's not reliably within our command. Because they are impermanent and prone to suffering, he concludes, this is not mine, this I am not, this is not myself. This is not mine, this I am not, this is not, and then two words, myself. This teaching is often misunderstood as a metaphysical claim that there is no self. And we've talked about this before in group here, the teachings on not self. But the Buddha's approach is practical and investigative. He's asking us to look closely, that when we say I, what are we referring to? Is I a body? Is I a mood? Is I a memory or a thought? A moment of awareness? And each of these things shifts. And as we investigate them, each arises dependent on conditions. Like we've talked about before, the phenomena. Dun, 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 dun. The aggregates framework invites us to examine experience not as a singular identity, but as a natural unfolding. Bhikkhuni, which, by the way, what did you say month is? The month of March is?
Well, it's Women's History Month.
Women's History Month. There we go. I should know this. I have ADHD. Women's History Month. So we're going to be trying to pull from women teachers this month in terms of adding to our talks. And so this one is Bhikkhuni Aya Kema once said, "What we call I is a process, not a person." That sentence alone carries the heart of this teaching. It is not an attack on the dignity or humanity. It is an invitation to freedom. And if what we take to be solid is actually process, then clinging can soften. Our attachment can soften to those things. And when clinging softens, our suffering diminishes. Poet and Zen teacher Jane Hirschfield writes, "Everything changes. Everything is connected. Pay attention." The aggregates are a way of paying attention to how experience is built. And so what are these things? What are these five aggregates? The Buddha organized these lived experiences into 5 different categories. The first being form, or in Pali called rupa, is the physical dimension. So it's the body and material phenomena. I'm never not going to think that after that one talk. So the pressure of the seat, the temperature of the room in the air, the beating of our heart, the body ages, it heals, it tightens, it softens, it moves according to biological laws. And we call it my body, yet so much of it unfolds without our direction, which is so annoying. But the form is tangible. So rupa, this category, form is tangible, but not fixed. Feeling tone is the second one, or vedana. And that is the immediate hedonic quality of experience. So we've talked about this before. Feeling tone was its own week. We've talked about it many times. It comes up a lot. But the pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral. So naming our experiences as pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. It's not an emotion, but the simple tone that precedes reaction. So pleasant brings grasping. It's so good, I want more of it. Unpleasant brings resistance. I don't like that. I don't know, moving away. And neutral brings dullness or overlooking, potentially a boredness, like that doesn't even need my attention. And in the Buddha's teachings, feeling tone is pivotal because it conditions craving. So whatever we're moving away from and then moving towards, I'm craving more of that. I want more. There's a thirst. And so seeing it clearly interrupts automatic reactivity. If I can notice when something is pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, I can notice what my reaction to that thing will be. The third aggregate is perception, or sanya. And this is the labeling and recognizing function of the mind. It identifies shapes as faces, tones as criticism, sensations as pain. Perception stitches together meaning. It's efficient and necessary, yet it too is conditioned. Perception is conditioned by memory, by culture, by our habits. So what one person perceives as rejection, another person may receive as neutrality. Toni Morrison said, definitions belong to the definers, not the defined. Perception shapes the world we believe we inhabit. And personally, this one's one of the more difficult ones for me, being perceived or perceiving myself. How I'm perceived by others, I know, is none of my business, but I am a human in the world, and I'm impacted by it. So that's definitely one that I need to practice more with. The fourth aggregate is mental formations, or sankhara. And this includes thoughts, intentions, patterns, emotional patterns, habits, reactions. This is the realm of conditioning most visible in our inner life. Anger, generosity, fear, planning. I'm a big planner. Comparison, intimately familiar with that one. All of this falls within mental formations. They arise dependent on causes, and they leave imprints that influence future responses. Bhikkhuni Pema Chodron writes, "Nothing ever goes away until it has taught us what we need to know." So formations reveal patterns that can either perpetuate suffering or cultivate wisdom. What do we do with that information? And the last aggregate is consciousness, or vijnana. I hope I'm saying that right. And this is the knowing of experience. So consciousness in the sense of my eye is conscious when it's seeing, my ears are conscious when it's hearing, our minds are conscious when we're thinking. And it arises dependent on contact between the sense organ and the object. So it is not a permanent observer, but an event, a flickering moment, moment by moment. And these are all things that are just happening, right? Our eyes just see, our ears just hear, and our mind will just think. The Buddha describes consciousness as dependently arisen, inseparable from conditions. My ear will hear when there's noise. My eyes will see when there's something to see, when they're open. My mind will think thoughts because that's what it does. Thoughts will come and they will go. And so together, these five operate seamlessly. And so to review, we have form, feeling tone, perception, mental formations, and consciousness. And as an example of how they all come together, using this, let's say a coworker of mine was upset and yelling at me because they don't like how I write emails. This may be true or not true. I will not confirm. The sound of them yelling is a form. They are yelling. It's a physical thing that's happening. I'm hearing it as a consciousness. My ears are hearing it. It's registered as unpleasant. Feeling tone, I don't like that, unpleasant. And it's labeled as criticism, my perception of what's happening. Followed by the defensiveness or hurt that I'm experiencing, which is a mental formation. So all of these things happening within one time. And within milliseconds, a solid me is formed through all of that. I feel attacked. And yet when we examine as we just did, it's actually a chain of processes, conditioned processes. So Zen teacher Ruth Ozeki writes, "To study the self is to forget the self." The aggregates offer a method of study, not philosophically, but experientially. And so how do the aggregates support us in our practice? The teaching of the aggregates is not meant to dismantle our sense of humanity. It's meant to reduce clinging. And we'll talk about this clinging in the path to enlightenment with the Four Noble Truths, which will be a part of the Dhammas. But clinging that we know and that we've learned so far leads to suffering. And so when experience is seen as process rather than identity, there's space. We have space to experience things differently, to make different choices, to not attach my identity to what's happening. And so when anger is recognized as a mental formation rather than a self-definition, shame lessens. This is anger. I am not anger. And so when pain is known as form rather than personal failure, compassion increases. This is pain. I see you, pain. I'm here for you. When unpleasant feeling tone is observed before it hardens into craving or aversion, freedom becomes possible. Bhikkhuni Aya, and I'm going to say this wrong even though I looked it up many times. I think it's Taloka. She's the first Westerner woman to be appointed as a Theravada Bhikkhuni preceptor, which is pretty cool. And she has said that insight into non-self is not nihilism, but the end of unnecessary burden. The aggregates show us where burden forms, which is in identification. This is happening carries less weight than this is me. And I don't know about you, but I could certainly carry less weight in my mind. That sounds like a big relief. So in practice, the aggregates sharpen investigation. They clarify what mindfulness is noting. And instead of a vague sense of I'm overwhelmed, there's clarity. Unpleasant feeling tone is present. Perception is labeling this as a threat. Mental formations are producing anxiety. This clarity interrupts the fusion of self with process. And now I know that can sound a little silly, like to do that in real life. Like when I was writing that, I was thinking like, I can't see myself sitting in the middle of like anxiety being like, this is form and this is unpleasant feeling tone. These aren't like hard and fast rules like meant to discourage investigation or curiosity. It's an invitation to be curious about our minds and our experiences, and it's a practice. So as we practice with maybe form, later in life and experience, we can notice form without needing to sit there and be like, I'm going to break this up into the 5 aggregates. It happens more naturally. The aggregates also cultivate humility. None of the aggregates operate independently. They arise due to cause and conditions. So seeing this deepens compassion for ourselves and others. If reactions are conditioned, then patience becomes possible and transformation. Poet Mary Oliver once wrote, "You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves." Form is allowed to be form. Feeling tone is allowed to be feeling tone. Nothing needs to be denied. We're not running away from noticing what these experiences are. We're just understanding them more, which brings clarity. And so ultimately, the aggregates support practice by loosening the reflex of I or mine. And the Buddha did not ask us to erase ourselves. He invited us to see clearly, and in that clarity, the grip of suffering releases. Changing, conditioned, impersonal aggregates softens the burden of solid identity. And in that softening, there's freedom. I'll leave you with this quote. Reverend Angel Kyoto Williams said, "The point is not to become something different, but to become more fully yourself." Insight into non-self isn't erasure, it's clarity. And so practicing with the aggregates can support finding and experiencing that clarity. Thank you for your time.